and the head of the Police Social Welfare Association, Mr. Dixon, where they will speak to you. Mr. Ford will deal directly with the operations that have taken place yesterday going into today, and Mr. Dixon will speak about a very disturbing situation as it pertains to, we speak about a lot about persons being targeted, the targeting of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. It started as it pertains to being targeted. It started when I have seen over the last 24 hours, certain individuals, they were actually trying to judge me and judge my performance. When I see an individual who tried to destabilize a country, put the country in the darkest day in our nation's history, shut down parliament, hold a prime minister and others hostage, and then after persons were killed, inclusive of police officers, the day an individual like that gives me support and gives me credit is the day I need to resign. I know the people that I need that support me, and those are the dedicated, hard-working, law-abiding citizens of this great country. Additionally, I actually heard comments that it was stated that when anytime a police officer in other parts of the world, as soon as they fire a shot, they're supposed to be suspended. That is not true. There are certain things that we would clarify as we move along. As we go on to comments, we have seen again certain comments in the media that I just wish to clarify. Their editorials, and again, I really ask persons, if it is that you're not aware, you're not an expert in the field, instead of just giving your own comment without understanding the facts, please ask for clarification by experts in the field. The Trinidad and Tobago Express in their editorial stated today that there's no evidence to prove that there was a preemptive plan by these individuals and there was an orchestrated attempt to shut down the country. What the Trinidad and Tobago Express has done now is basically to accuse the SSA and the National Operation Fusion Center and our intelligence agencies as liars. And that is because the Express knows nothing about intelligence. Many times people who are not intelligent will do that as well. But I find it is alarming that you will put an editorial to question the competence, the trustworthiness of the law enforcement agencies by challenging them and saying unless we bring evidence. So we must bring evidence to deal with intelligence, and that shows lack of intelligence to say that. You cannot bring evidence to expose intelligence when it is intelligence is something that you need to use to get enough so that you can use it in court as evidence to have persons arrested. The fact of the matter is that in contrast to what was perceived, there were 40 simultaneous operations that took place yesterday. This was a criminal operation that took place. If you looked at it, within 120 minutes, there were 40 different situations of individuals going from specific places. They knew where the debris was, they knew what was happening, they knew exactly where it was, and this happened throughout the country. The Express has the audacity to say that this was all coincidental. This was planned, this was very well orchestrated, and the reason why I can confirm this is a few hours before it started, we were being aware of what the intention was. So dozens of persons had placards, this was all just made at the same time. The answer is no. So the fact is that this was an orchestrated attempt to destabilize the country. It was very well planned by very senior individuals in the criminal enterprise, and this was a criminal operation that failed. The Express also questions the fact as to why did the Commissioner of Police not be out on the street. And again, it shows lack of training, understanding counter-revolutionary warfare, combat awareness, tactics, and understanding leadership skill in an operational scenario. Had it been one area that something was taking place, say for example the Queen's Park Savannah, when there was the protests opposite the US Embassy, or in Sealots, then the Commissioner of Police is expected to lead his troops from the front, which is what I did. When there's a situation with 40 consecutive matters, with persons burning tires, debris, shooting police officers, plans to assassinate persons, what I did is what it is you will see here. So this is to educate the Express to understand what leadership is when it comes to tactics in a situation of counter-revolutionary warfare. that to Omati Lida and the Trinidad and Tobago Express, that is how you deal with an operation. You don't have a commissioner of police that's running around willy-nilly all over the place. That is what you call a war room. That is what you call an operational command center. That is how you deal with a situation of a natural or man-made disaster. Where it is, you would have seen my Deputy Commissioner of Police Operation and Intelligence there. We were monitoring everything in real time, pinpointing the situation, analyzing the threat, and being able to understand exactly what resources need to be placed in an effective and efficient manner. We were able to then utilize the support of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, the fire services, and continue to get intelligence from the SSC and the National Operation Fusion Center. So express in future, if you do not understand tactics and operational scenario in a law enforcement environment, please ask first before you write foolish comments in your editorials. I will now like to ask the DCP Ford to just give us a summary as to what has transpired so far as of last night and going into this morning, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Commissioner. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. A pleasant morning to you. It is indeed a pleasant morning. After a sleepless night last night, I had the opportunity to look out a window on the eastern side of my residence. When I saw the sun shining this morning, I said, this is too beautiful a day for it to be disrupted, as it was yesterday. And it is wonderful that so far, today continues to be a day of little disruption. And that did not happen by accident. But before I go further, let me express sincere thanks to a bunch of very hard-working officers of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the administrative, the operations, the investigative arms, the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service, officers of the municipal police, the different security agencies and companies that assisted us, the SSA, and most importantly, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago who called and gave us tips and information that really assisted our operations yesterday to help us to quell that disruption that took place. The success that we achieved yesterday could not have been achieved without the collaborative efforts of all the persons I've just spoken about there. I will share with you some aspects of the situation that existed yesterday, its impact and its resolution. The Commissioner has said virtually all that needed to be said, so I intend to be very brief. What we had was a deliberate disruption or an attempt to disrupt life as we know it in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, ironically, because of our partnership with our citizens, we were getting snippets of information since the night before that some type of disruption was planned for yesterday. What we did not have was the magnitude, the scale that disruption was about. So we pre-planned, and even though we pre-planned, because that operation was calculated, and when you look at what happened yesterday, it was calculated. I found myself in the Commissioner's Command Center, accompanied by the Commissioner, the Deputy Commissioner, Intelligence and Investigations, and other arms of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, in communication with the fire services, the Defense Force. And I am staring at some monitors, and I am seeing, and I'll use the example of the Eastern Main Road and the Priest Simon Center out there, where persons converged in an attempt to block the roadway. They burnt a maxi taxi. And because of our ability to marshal our officers, we were able to respond. And I say respond and not react, because yesterday, even though the intention was to have the police on the back foot, we were responding more than reacting. We were able to respond and get officers to that site on the Eastern Main Road. We cleared that area. Persons were arrested. And we made a decision based on our communication with persons on the ground and in the operations center upstairs that it was safe for us to pull back somewhat and concentrate on other areas. Lo and behold, what I saw really flabbergasted me. I saw persons in outfits covering their faces, they appear to be females, holding blue placards as if by clockwork they were given an instruction to step forward now. And throughout Port of Spain especially, what we witnessed, what I witnessed, was a clearly calculated, planned, organized attempt to disrupt Trinidad and Tobago. And I say Trinidad and Tobago because although Port of Spain was the epicenter of what was taking place, we had about 4 or 5 divisions that were also affected. In Western Division on the Western Main Road in Bagatelle, in Northeastern Division, which is the Mova San Juan area, we had issues at Caledonia, we had issues in the Quasi, which normally is a place that is traversed by both the traveling and the working public. And you might hear about skirmishes, about fights, but you will hardly hear about the burning of debris on the Saddle Road just off the Eastern Main Road. That happened yesterday. We had an issue further up at Bush Street corner on the Eastern Main Road, again debris on the street burning. And in Northern Division, which is the Aruca Rima area, we had situations in Maracas, St. Joseph, Monte Grande, which is south of the Eastern Main Road. And they went so far as on the Churchill Roosevelt Highway, just before the Mausica Road, where you had burnings taking place on the roadway. That was calculated to disrupt us. We had our officers on the ground, we had drone coverage, we had CCTV coverage that gave us live information that caused us to communicate and respond appropriately. It culminated in the arrest of 70+ persons. We have had some injuries, both to police officers and to some members of the public. All of that created an impact that to me was an impact of fear, uncertainty, and anxiety in our population. What was heartening to me was that I received calls on my personal phone from members of the banking sector, judiciary, and business places. And as alarmed as they were seeking reassurances from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service that things could be normal. And they were asking if they should close their businesses by midday and send their workers home. And we conferred. And after conferencing and looking at what was taking place by our response, we were able to give the assurance to those business places that you all have to continue your businesses as normal. And as a matter of fact, I even advised one of the banking institutions that because persons may be delayed because of the fear that was intended to be caused, they should open up to about 6 or 7 o'clock. So sure was I in our ability to provide safety and security for our citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. That situation yesterday that started in the wee hours of yesterday morning went into last night. But it was resolved because of the hard-working, dedicated and committed officers and members of the public that really knuckled down and gave their all. The outfit that I'm wearing here this morning, I had it on yesterday. And I had the opportunity to take off the top, not the underpants, not the pants part of it, because we were on call for the entire last night period, just in case. Why would we put ourselves through that? it is because of our continued commitment, our partnership with you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And despite what we saw yesterday, looked as though there were many persons, it is just but a segment, a small, violent and unruly segment of our community that is bent and will take any opportunity to cause mayhem. They did not need that catalyst that they are speaking about. It saddens me when young persons who have such bright futures can find themselves doing nothing better than pulling debris onto the roadway, taking instructions from someone who will not stand up for them when they are arrested, and setting that debris alight. That level of dedication that they are seeing can be better served if they can go into some greater endeavor to uplift themselves. But having said that, we have taken a pledge to uphold the law of Trinidad and Tobago, and anyone found breaking the law, be they police officers or members of the public, we are going to act, and we'll act within the ambits of the law. The persons who are arrested, they will be taken before a court of law, and they will be dealt with. Again, I want to thank the hard-working officers of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service for going beyond and above the call of duty, with all the supporting agencies that assisted us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, let us just backtrack to what caused this. It is alleged that the violence that we saw yesterday, the catalyst of it was based on the unfortunate incident with the killing of 3 young men. We beg to differ. We believe this was an orchestrated attempt by individuals to use the opportunity to try to destabilize the country and use this as a front. As the Commissioner of Police, again, I stated before that I intend to have a firm hand when it comes to police officers being involved in any criminal activity and to have them removed. I stated a few weeks ago, and I continue to state, that if at any time police officers will be charged for any violent crime, be it rape, kidnapping, homicide, etc., that they should be fired. Persons actually question that. But in Minneapolis, when the same thing was done, it was okay. But it is not, people said it is not okay here. In any situation, if a police officer would abuse his authority, I say that they should be fired. But the fact of the matter is, there must be an investigation. We cannot have a situation, this reminds me so much of the days as a little boy when we had these Western movies, and persons automatically wanted to be judge and jury. And they will come up there with their pitchforks and their fire and their rope and tell the sheriff, you need to move to the side, we intend to string him up immediately. That is what we are seeing here right now. Persons are holding this country to ransom and intend to burn down the country because they insist that they want justice immediately. It does not work that way. This sheriff is not moving. And I hope that those persons understand, please do not try to put pressure on me to do something. Because this sheriff, as I said, I'm not going to budge. We're going to let the system go through as it should be. And please, I do not want them to make my day. I would like them to now look, I would like them to look at the incident, because this has been played over and over again, of the video. I do not want to run the whole video because we're running out of time, but there's something I'd just like to show here. We are in a situation here where you're looking at over a dozen police officers, and persons are telling me that we should fire everyone, suspend everyone immediately. Now suppose there were 30 police officers in the operation, suppose there were 50, suppose there were 100. Am I to totally just send everyone home and suspend them? We have a police complaint authority. This matter is being thoroughly investigated. And with that investigation, we will ensure that if it is any police officer may have breached the regulations and abused his authority, that would be dealt with. But it cannot be a situation where every single police officer there, you are stating that they must be suspended. Okay. What has happened here is that certain persons are trying to direct the narrative, inclusive of even in the media, certain politicians. There are 3 individuals, in fact. They call themselves political leaders. They're not involved in 2 major political parties. These 3 individuals, if they combine and form an alliance, the 3 of them combined with their support will not breach the public health regulations of Assembly of more than 25. So what they are trying to do right now is try to turn this hate the police campaign, discredit the police. You're a political leader, you're coming into an election, and all you can speak about is hate the police, attack the police, demonize the police, in the hope that you can get persons who may be deemed high risk to say, well, listen, we are here, we are the saviors of you. I ask the country, do not take basket. There's a situation here, and we are dealing with it. I give the assurance to the country that the matter is being investigated as quickly as possible, and as soon as the findings would be completed, especially by the PCA, I would act in accordance with the findings of the PCA and our investigation. Let us not compare what is happening in the United States to Trinidad and Tobago. In the United States, we saw a situation where persons were unarmed and were being killed by police officers. We are here in a situation where police officers are being killed. They are being shot. And what I find very alarming is that, yes, the 3 persons killed, it is very unfortunate. And you can't just pinpoint individuals. Yes, one of the 3 persons was littered with reports of him involved in firearm-related offenses. That has nothing to do with the investigation. But what I find, the same concern that people had, there's a police officer on that same day, when these 3 men were killed. What about PC Mosley? He's the forgotten soul in this whole situation. His head was blown off. He was killed that same day. But there was never a protest. We have situations where a 2-year-old was killed. We recall a situation in Silots where a young girl, it was claimed that she was tipping off persons. She was killed. Her family's home burnt to the ground. We have the situation in Karanaj where a year ago, we have a political leader screaming, call her name, and then trying to blame the police. But in that same situation in Karanaj, when that young girl was unfortunately killed, this is what happened to the police officer. A bullet ripped through his bulletproof vest and sent him in hospital. And this is what we are speaking about. And show the other photo, please. That, members of the media, is what the police have to encounter on a daily basis. Persons shooting at police officers, targeting police officers, trying to kill police officers, and people try to see us as the enemy. I think it is very unfortunate. The game plan here, okay, thank you. The game plan here by certain individuals who try to support criminal elements is to try to have here similar to certain parts of Jamaica where angels fear to tread. Where there are certain places where the criminals feel that we own this area. I give the assurance to this country that regardless of all the ramaging that they try to see if they could influence a very bright nation, that the police are the enemy. I give the assurance that no drug area, no block, no community, no street, nowhere will be owned and controlled by criminal elements to the point that they feel that no one can enter. And that seems to be a big concern here. As I stated, it seems to be an orchestrated attempt to try to demonize the police service. It seems to be a plan to peg back the police service because of what it is we are doing. So criminals can carry firearms, do what they want. We saw what happened yesterday. These individuals, the plan of this as well was to deliberately target police officers, which they did. There were several police officers that they were shot at. An Attorney General's office was hit. The area was total anarchy, where it is you had a situation of roads being blocked, tires, debris, persons in confrontation, throwing over vehicles, and yet all of that, the Newsday's front page is of police officers arresting someone. The whole country is under siege. The whole country is under siege, but this is what the Newsday sees as the front page. I will now ask the head of the Police Social and Welfare Association, Mr. Dixon, to please address us. Mr. Dixon.
Thanks, Commissioner of Police, Deputy Commissioner of Police, members of the media, Trinidad and Tobago, thank you for being here. Let me first start by saying the association condemns the destabilizing acts by members of the public, particularly those in the east-west corridors on yesterday's date. Additionally, we want to put on record, we must commend each and every single officer of the Ttps who would have availed themselves in yesterday's, for want of a better word, massacre or destabilization act. We found that the actions of the police officers were very, very brave and commendable, and it should not go unnoticed. We also want to put on record that these officers have consistently shown their commitment, dedication, and devotion to duty. If we look back to the period building up to yesterday, we want to take from elections last year, 2nd of December 2019, then we went into Carnival. We went from Carnival into the COVID, and still in the COVID. And these are the same officers who consistently have been there for the members of the public and continue to show that level of loyalty and dedication. But these are the same officers who are still on the 2013 salary. So we also would want to put on record that an opportune time is being created here for not just the authority, but more so the CPO to get around the round table to treat with issues that affects officers, terms and conditions of office. Additionally, we also are aware that an officer having completed the duties last night in and around after 1 this morning would have gotten their car firebombed, who lives in East Port of Spain. That again is very, very, very unfortunate, but it should not be. The police are not the enemies of the public, nor should the public feel that their actions will go unfettered. Each report, we take each report as it is and try to exercise due diligence and efficiency in treating with the matter. We would want to continue to bridge that confidence gap which was so low so many years ago. We want to continue to ensure it escalate. But the actions of yesterday will not add value to that partnership we are working at. We want to call on the persons in and around the city of Port of Spain and environs. Please, the manner to resolve issues where you feel unjust is not to take the law into your own hands. You cannot win that way. The country loses as a result of that. We lose as a result of that. The officers who would have gotten support from both the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force yesterday and also the other agencies identified by the Commissioner of Police, we also want to commend them for the level of support to ensure that yesterday's activities did not matriculate into something that was uncontrollable. We are thankful for seeing today, as said by Mr. Ford, and we hope that incidents of this will not raise its head again. The Commissioner of Police have given assurance in terms of the investigation into other related matters. We, the association, have in fact reached out to Officers Mosley's wife and mother. We will continue to do what needs to be done. It is unfortunate that we would have to lose so many lives over the weekend. We also are aware that two members of the public was murdered in Northern Division night before last night. And we are saying that this spate of killing needs to stop. We also take note that a lot of high-power rifles are being placed into the market. Our officers continue to show that brave, valiant effort to combat these atrocities, and we are thankful for the support given by the authorities. But again, the police are not the enemies. The police are the professionals who are put here. Let us look beyond the police at this point in time. Petia, they are not being policed yesterday. just for one moment, let's look at police not being present yesterday. The extent to what could have translated, all of us who are here present might not have been here right now to carry out this interview. Right? So again, on behalf of the association, let me commend all the hard-working, dedicated officers. Let me commend the Commissioner of Police and his executive for the leadership yesterday. And let us also call on the public, let us work together to bring about a greater and a better Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. And following up on that, when we asked for public support, it was excellent that persons were able to take video footage of the incident with the 3 men being killed. And that is what we are speaking about. That video footage is what could be instrumental to assist us in pinpointing exactly what transpired, because there's no such thing as a perfect crime. Someone will always see something. So we welcome the fact of what was done. But I also would like to have that done when the 2-year-old was killed. I would like it done when it is that men, women, innocent men and women are killed. I would like to have that done with 538 persons killed last year. It cannot be that person just conveniently only decide to record when police officers are involved. Let us do the recording. Take the recording and let us bring these persons to justice. It goes back again to my point. As of yesterday was a well-orchestrated criminal plan. It was a criminal operation, nothing more. This was a plan to destabilize and disrupt the country. And now they're trying to play victim. They're trying to pretend that they're the ones that there's a degree of hurt and they're committing crime and trying to shut down the country because of their concern. That is not true. They are using this to build their criminal cartel. And as I said, crime is big business. They are using this as an opportunity and an excuse to try to peg back the police service from doing our job so that they can take control of this nation. We would not let this happen. I will just show a short video of this is what transpired yesterday. And I ask the public to see who is the real enemy and who are the ones who are trying to destabilize the country, in contrast to who are the ones who are trying to protect the country. These actions are supposed to be based on their being concerned. We have also used our camera footage to pinpoint the individuals, and these individuals will be brought in for questioning. Okay, thank you. And this is what we speak about, where there are individuals that have used the opportunity to try to destabilize the country. Just before I close and open for questioning, there are just 2 short videos I'd just like to show to again ask the public to understand that we are doing all that we can. This was a deliberate plot by certain persons and they have their friends. There are those persons who that you call these intellectuals and trying to pontificate as if they are the representation of all that is good. And all that they do is continue to try to demonize the police. They know exactly what they are doing. They are trying to build their base, build support by trying to ride the backs of the police service. We are not the enemy. I give the assurance to the public. Any police officer who is involved in illegal activity or breach of regulations, they would be disciplined. But that's what we saw yesterday. Those individuals, they are the enemy of the state, not the police service. What we ask, however, is for persons to understand and recognize what these officers have achieved. They were, again, as Mr. Dixon said, had it not been for the police, we would have seen a repeat of 1990. This is what they tried to do, to destabilize the country. It was an orchestrated plot by certain individuals. Thankfully, there are certain individuals who do understand. Yes, who do understand what it is that was done. And sometimes a little bit of recognition and appreciation for what my officers have done can go a very long way. No, this here is what this is. Oh, go ahead. This here is what it is they were planning to do. Listen to the voice. That, members of the media, is what persons are trying to state that they are the good boys, they are the nice fellas, they did nothing wrong. It's the company they keep and all of that. These people want to kill, they want to destroy, and they do not want us to defend you, the law-abiding citizens. As I mentioned, if it is the audio from the chamber, please. And this is what sometimes a little bit of recognition goes a long way. Okay, never mind. And it was basically from the chamber actually commending the police service for their dedication to duty. And then there's also, as Mr. Dixon spoke about, there's also video footage of a police officer's car being destroyed. Members of the media, before I close, again, I give the assurance to the nation that the police service will do all that is required within the law to ensure the safety and security of each and every citizen of this country. And no one is above the law, inclusive of police officers. But in the same manner, please do not be fooled with those persons who come in there as Trojan horses to try to give you the impression that they're all that is good and righteous. Their job is to try to demonize, discredit, and undermine the police service for their own agenda, or to assist those individuals who they represent, support, or they benefit with financially, that being the criminal elements. Their job is to try to destabilize the country. The best way to do that is to try to undermine the police service. We will do what is required. We give the assurance to this country that what happened in 1990 will not happen again. And we will ensure that we do it within the law. I open questions to the media.
Good morning, everyone. Nicholas Suchman Singh here from TV6. Commissioner, let's start back from Saturday. What is the protocol dealing with officers when handling persons who are unarmed and arms are raised in the air? What is the protocol for police officers containing them and controlling the situation so that they won't be shot? Just explain that for us. Well, hold on, another question. Yesterday we saw, as you say, an attempt to destabilize the country. We also saw Fuad Abubakar being arrested. Has he been charged as yet? And what will be his charges? What is the investigation behind it? Another thing, no one has mentioned on the panel this morning. A woman was shot yesterday. What is happening with that investigation? How is it that this woman who was protesting, possibly pregnant, how is it that she was shot by a police officer? And is there an investigation going to be launched into this?
Okay, first thing, you are sure that she was shot by a police officer?
Well,
and I mean, if you could, I would like you to bring evidence. I would like to bring you into.
Well, see, so the back and forth now, because we would like an investigation to be launched.
That is it,
so we have ballistics now. So is the TPS going to investigate to see whether the missile came from a TPS officer or some random gun?
Yeah, but that's, you see, the reason I asked you the question was just my point. You do not know. There must be something called an investigation. So by you just automatically, this here, what you have was just stated, has basically summed up what has happened in this country. We take one and one and make it three. We automatically allude to something and automatically come to a conclusion. And I do not operate like that. As a leader, I am not going to make decisions based on speculation, sir.
Well, the role of the media, Commissioner, is to find questions out, and
Well,
it's actually to play stupid to get questions so the public can
It is
understand.
difficult for me to answer if you keep interrupting me. I mean, you will think so. So if you interrupt me, I wouldn't be able to answer. So the fact of the matter is that there's an investigation. When there's an investigation, we will then verify who was culpable, if any, and that will be dealt with. As it pertains to, it goes back to the second question that you asked. Right, again, likewise, there's an that he has been held, that is confirmed, and not as yet. He's still being questioned. So let's go back to the first question. The situation with someone placing their hands in the air. Obviously, there's a protocol. The person has now shown that he's not resisting arrest. He's not a threat to a police officer. But is that all that took place in the video? And again, because there's something, we have a simulation theater where I would like to invite all members of the media to come to a simulation theater. A simulation theater will show different scenarios for a police officer, and he has to make a 1-second judgment call. So this is not in any way to speak about that investigation. I don't want in any way for persons to perceive that I am going left or right. All I want is the truth. And I'm prepared to handle the truth and act on the truth. But my point is, we automatically see one person put his hand in the air, and then after he's no longer there. We do not know what happened with the third person who was in the back seat, what it is that he did. We do not know how many police officers fired, who fired, what should be fired, suspend all the other officers even though they were not part of it. Is it that the person in the back seat drew his firearm? Did he not draw his firearm? Were there witnesses? This is what an investigation is about. You cannot automatically say because somebody put their hands in the air, it means everybody should be suspended. I can tell you in the simulation theater, there are situations, and this is not to state that this happened with this individual, the young man who was killed. Persons have put their hands in the air, and then once they put their hands in the air, they automatically drop. When it is they move and they draw a firearm. I'm not saying it happened here, but let us not automatically, as soon as you put your hands in the air, it means that you can just, so a criminal will now say, oh, okay, so the drill now is if I put my hands in the air, police cannot shoot, so I can now go and get a firearm and shoot. So we have to go through the investigation thoroughly. Did all three persons put their hands in the air? Is it that one police officer abuses authority? Would it have been two? Do we have witnesses to verify that other officers? So that is what my point is. It is just for us to investigate, to verify if all officers are to be blamed, if none, if some who just fired the shots. And that is all that we are seeing. There must be an investigation. All of a sudden the PCA was always independent and people believed in the PCA. Why all of a sudden now it means that there must be swift justice, have the lynch mob turn up at the sheriff's front door and demand that persons be suspended without even getting the investigation completed. All I'm asking the public is to have the investigation completed, but do not be fooled into thinking what took place yesterday was because of that. That involved criminal elements of gang leaders deliberately trying to instill fear, disrupt the country, and may I also add, it goes back to the shooting. There have been 527 shootings at police officers in the last 5 years, which means that every 4 days a police officer is shot at. We have one firearm seized every 3 days. We have one person held for an illegal firearm every 4 days. It is a war zone out there. So it is difficult for us to fight in a war zone, but you're telling us to tie our hands behind our back. We are not saying that if persons surrender, we intend they should be shot. But again, as we speak about surrender, our criminal justice system is one that when persons surrender, they come to the police, they are immediately released the very next day on bail, or if found guilty, charged $5,000 to go back out into the killing fields to shoot at police officers. And if the homicide rate goes up, we are to be blamed.
Ian Alleyne from TTT News. You mentioned this is a...
No, go ahead.
You mentioned this was an orchestrated plan. Or are you concerned that these various factions who would normally be at war against each other are now coming together for things like these and can possibly do so in the future for more dangerous plans?
It is quite possible. It is amazing that the vast majority of the 538 murders last year was based on one group trying to kill others in the other group. And what brings them together is the enemy of the enemy is my friend. And if that has brought two murderous gangs together to try to form some type of a strategic alliance, it says a lot about the character of those individuals. I wish to state, however, it does not matter. the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we are well trained, we are prepared, and as I stated yesterday, if anyone thinks of trying to have a repeat of 1990, when it took 7 days to quell, I will ensure on my watch it will be dealt with in 7 minutes.
You've about the same killing in Ibitham yesterday, you have mentioned and you have described your officers as heroes, but to the residents in Ibitham, those officers are certainly not, and they have been calling for you yesterday to pay them a visit. Are you have intentions of doing so, to meeting with at least the family of the 30-year-old mother of 5?
No, definitely. I think it was her. I think it was her husband, the lady who died yesterday. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will speak to the individual, even though he said that what he intended to do to me and my family. I understand he is hurting, mm-hmm. And obviously I would be more than willing to meet with him.
In one of the videos, you showed where a police officer was shot through his vests. How are you treating with that? Is that a case of getting upgraded vest, or is that just to show the kind of firearms that you are dealing with? No.
A bulletproof vest is not. It is not something that the bulletproof vest is to ensure that there is no penetration of the round into the person. A bulletproof vest at times will cause your ribs to break. So the fact of the matter is that if he did not have the vest, he would have been killed. But no one spoke about it. Instead, we have an activist politician who decided to use that as an avenue and then try to make some very foolish comments to state that the young girl who was killed that day was at the hands of, or alleged by police officers. For that officer to be shot, it meant that people had illegal firearms and tried to kill police officers. Yesterday as well, the plan was to try to target police officers. You saw the video, assault rifles. Their plan is to kill police officers. And how do you think my officers feel when it is you see in editorials and other aspects trying to blame the same men who are going out there to try to ensure that democracy is preserved in this country?
All right, we're next to 91.9 FM. Good morning. Commissioner, are you satisfied that the police service is in a position to say that their officers are trained enough in public relations to quell situations as opposed to make things, get worse? In particular, too, because we also saw some video with some persons running away from police and officers shooting behind them. I believe it looked like George or Nelson Street. How would you respond to that? And also, just quickly, the video you showed earlier, we noticed Minister Young in the room war room, as you described it. Is that normal procedure to have the minister in the war room, and what was his role yesterday in terms of being in the room?
Oh, so many questions. Okay, let me start with, hold on to that. Let me start with the last one first. What you saw there is similar to what is in the United Kingdom. It is known as COBRA, the Cabinet Operation Briefing Room, because the government, they are the ones who direct policies. So if there's a situation where the UK Prime Minister, he or she must be aware of the operation, seeing that what is required. Because remember, when it comes to an operation for a natural or man-made disaster, it does not necessarily mean arms of the protective services. You require support from the regional cooperation, the Ministry of Works and Transport. So there are a number of different institutions. That is why when the minister reignited the National Operation Fusion Center, it puts all different agencies working together and being able to coordinate. So that is what happened yesterday. It was real time. As soon as an incident took place, we were able to pinpoint immediately, utilize our resources to quell the disturbance and to be able to make sure that we have the logistic and the operational support to deal with it. As it pertains to public relations, yes, we have actually increased that, and that is why probably the public support of the police service has increased in the last 18 months from 14% to 30%. So there's a lot that we are doing. We are not perfect, neither is society, but we come from society. We're expected to be at a higher standard, and I give the assurance that we would. The police officers, I think if you look at what has taken place all over the world, you have been seeing police officers being killed, police officers killing persons, protests, riots, destruction. What you saw yesterday with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, you saw tremendous restraint. You saw police officers actually being hit, being shot at, and still the police officers were able to hold back, show restraint, and only use minimum force when required. That says a lot about police officers in this country.
Just to the George Street or Nelson Street, you're not sure which street, where the guys running away from the officers, and it looked like officers shooting behind them while they were running away.
All right, sorry, I didn't pinpoint that at all. I will have to look at it, and again, minimum use of force. Persons fleeing, you do not fire shots at individuals. And that is why it is that I established the use of the proper line for minimum use of force, proper verbal persuasion, communication for backup. The body cameras, I have established 180. We intend to get about 500 more. And also then moving from the baton as not as a pain compliant method, but to be able to suppress the individual, and then moving to the pepper spray, the tasers, and the firearm being the final use of force.
Good morning. Olive Gonzalez from Newsday.
Yes.
I would like to know, have any charges been laid against anyone who was arrested yesterday? And Commissioner, can you confirm whether a senior police officer has been arrested by the Professional Standards Bureau?
Okay, all charges have not been laid as yet against the persons who have been arrested. Right, you would appreciate that it was a long and extensive exercise, and today we will be dealing with that. And yes, we have information that a senior officer was arrested. It bears testimony to the fact that we investigate, and this is not the first officer that has been arrested, and once persons run afoul of the law, we as investigators, when we have the evidence, we will arrest and charge you.
Okay. Any other? Oh, sorry.
I think I'd ask about the senior police officer. I'm not sure if you answer that.
Yes, we prefer not to make any comments at this time. We're just trying to get more information from the PSB, but I think you could confirm.
Yes, I can. I answered and said yes, one was arrested.
Okay.
Yesterday, while I was driving home, it was about 7 o'clock, I saw a police officer who I saw at one of the scenes. And he was telling me that he had a long day yesterday from 5 o'clock in the morning to after 7 when I saw him. How stretched right now is the police service, especially when things like these happen? Of course, you have the COVID, you have to check the bars and things like that.
I would ask Mr. Dixon, I think he being in charge of the Police Social and Welfare Association, he will explain to you what our officers have gone through since the Friday before Carnival. And this is going to continue until after general election. Go ahead, Mr. Dixon.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson, for asking that question. I alluded earlier to a period started back from just prior to the 2nd of December 2019, when the local government election started. We have the same labor force who have been going consistently. We are a wary group of professional officers who, I would want to say, are very committed, very dedicated, and deserve what they are entitled to. And at this stage here, we know that recruitment, we have some young officers coming in, so that will replenish to some extent. But we need the officers to continue to be motivated. Leadership, in fact, assists in terms of motivation, but more so, each officer has their own issues as it relates to financial and other that needs to be treated with. So we are calling the CPO, so you can be calling the CPO here again to get around the round table to deal with these issues. We also have the issues of promotion. We are aware that the Commissioner of Police is making steadfast efforts to improve that, which also redounds on the morale of the officers. We are seeing these things as positive benefits that can be put on the table to the officers to continue to give that dedicated and determined effort as it relates to serving the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So, yes, we are in fact wary, but we are committed, and we will continue to be committed. But we just want what we are entitled to.
Some of us, the last time we went to sleep would have been about 2 nights ago, in fact.
And let me just put on record, whilst heading home last night, just around, I could have been about 8:30, I encountered right on the bus route there, where members of the BITM would have come out and blocked the bus route, and I came out and I engaged them. So I spoke earlier about public relations and stuff, and engaging them, you could see that yes, there's frustration, there's hurt, but they also understand that they cannot pinpoint where the frustration and the hurt coming from. It is more of a picket fence kind of desire to want to be part of, but they don't know what they want to be part of. And it is unfortunate It simply means that there is a need for social programs over and beyond what police could do for the community to be initiated in these communities. That's what I want to put on the table.
And if I just add before, as it pertains to protests, the Trans-Tobago Police Service, we give the assurance to the public, it is your right to protest. You should protest. You have a reason to protest. And we will provide you with the security to protest. But you cannot protest and break the law, harm persons, destroy property, threaten individuals, shoot at persons, and say that that is a form of protest. You cannot be breaking the law based on your concern of somebody else having broken the law. Yes?
Commissioner, during your absence in March, former acting Commissioner Hackshaw will have stated Dr. Mullinal didn't have any pending charges before him. Is that still the case?
Okay, I was out of the country with that one. Let me be clear on something. The Trans-Tobago Police Service, we are not supposed to be sending out, it is not a certificate of character we give out. When any, especially persons in high office, they will be asked, give me a letter of good faith to say that we are clean and that can then be used on a political platform or even in Parliament. I think that was inappropriate. The fact of the matter is that it is also unacceptable. I wish to say that that letter, I would like to have that letter returned because it is not in tandem with the directives of the Trans-Tobago Police Service. Someone who holds high office is not supposed to get a letter of good character by the police service stating that how they are good boys or bad boys. If it is that you're a bad boy or girl, you will then be charged, you will be arrested, and the public will know. What we can state is that there's an investigation pertaining to an issue, be it EMBD, live sport, CLICO, or whatever. But we should not be stating and telling persons that that individual is being investigated or he is not being investigated. And more important, let me add that even myself as a Commissioner of Police, I certainly would not know every single person who is being investigated because the Trans-Tobago Police Service, we have the Cybercrime Unit, we have the FIB, we have the ACIB, we have the FIU, we have the Anti-Kidnapping Unit. There are several different agencies, and it is not the right of every single agency to bring forward information to a Commissioner of Police to say that this person is a person of interest or he or she is not. This is not to say that the individual is, but it is inappropriate for us to say that he is not. So pertaining to that piece of paper, I consider it irrelevant. The letter was inappropriate, and in future I wish to remind all police officers we should not be submitting letters like that to any person, especially in high office, because I'm aware how this thing works because I was in another place once, so I knew exactly what that boomerang would have been. And I think it is inappropriate because just say, forget this individual, if it was somebody else and then something happens, they will say that the police lied. So it is an unfortunate situation, unacceptable, and we can consider that letter null and void. Okay? Thank you very much.